perhaps she is entering her trad wife era, which obviously is a far cry from her karma era.
What the I'm sorry for my language, what the F is this?
Hey, this is for any real friends of JoJo Siwa. Guys, she's in trad country. That's not good. Somebody who's looking out for her. I mean, I know we all like to poke fun, but I'm worried. She's just a kid, right?
Hello, my dears. So, according to the internet, JoJo Siwa is now a trad wife. This appears to be the internet's latest overreaction, in my personal opinion. I think nowadays, all it really takes for people to think that you're a trad wife is for you to be female and also pictured or videoed within a kitchen. Some think that she has gone from being a lesbian icon to being the complete opposite since she's now entered her relationship with Chris. And because of the aesthetic that she has within her song, or her cover of the song by Kim Khan's Betty Davis Eyes, some believe that this is her making her transition into conservatism and the trad wife genre in terms of how she's now reinventing herself. She's now reinventing herself as a trad wife, apparently. And so some have taken to social media to share their opinions on the whole entire situation.
So JoJo Siwa is a trad wife now? She got with one bisexual man? And there's no more rainbows, no more bows, no more stars, no more like Lisa Frank vibes. Now she gets up at 5 a.m, does laundry, cleans her whole house, and drinks out of a mug with a picture of her and Chris. Like, no tea, no shade, but we're watching this live in real time.
God, the horror. I mean, she's waking up in the morning and doing her laundry and cleaning her house, and she's drinking out of a mug with a photo of her and her boyfriend. I mean, call the police. Yes, because that is apparently all it takes now to be accused of being a trad wife, waking up and doing basic things that every adult should do. And I'm sorry, but I'm really struggling to take this whole entire thing seriously. The whole no rainbows and bow thing could just be a part of her growing up and changing her look, you know, because she has been, from my understanding, in the media and on television since she was a really small child. And so naturally, you know, as she grows up and as she matures, her style and the way that she presents herself is also going to change.
This isn't really a place where I talk about pop culture, but fucks. Talking about her wonderful experience, about how conversion therapy saved her or whatever. Calling it now, JoJo Siwa is going to be the next guest on Fox News or Ben Shapiro's podcast or whatever. Genuinely revolting and a massive reminder of why we still need Pride Month. Jumped up Nickelodeon kid and her mum can self-anoint herself the CEO of gay pop, get a girlfriend, cheat on her on live television, and immediately rebrand with a cozy trad wife aesthetic, singing some cringe, conservative, evocative folk song that's probably going to be played at Charlie Kirk's wedding, doing it all for money. I don't care about JoJo Siwa or the fact that she can't sing. What I do care about is that it reduces being queer to an aesthetic and a trend that can be picked up and discarded for money. So glad that you made a god-awful TikTok trend out of it, JoJo. Stupid stunts like this from failed child stars is why people in the mainstream don't take queer issues seriously. Her and her mum are desperate for money. She's probably going to become a trad wife, right-wing influencer after this. Definitely going to do an interview with Jessie Waters where she talks about how she was pressured to be gay or whatever. Exactly is this for? The audience she established with her CEO of gay pop nonsense. They don't want this. Achieved is stigmatizing being queer even more, reinforcing the conservative just a phase propaganda. Pathetic.
Yeah, I'm sure that JoJo Siwa is the reason why people don't take queer issues seriously. I mean, if you asked a bunch of people, I'm pretty sure they would all tell you that the reason why the movement is not taken seriously or why the movement has lost a lot of support over the years is because of JoJo Siwa. I'm sure that's the first thing that would come out of their mouths. It won't be anything that the community themselves have done. It won't be anything to do with any of the things that people have maybe seen at pride parades or the kind of stuff that they've seen within the community. No. They'll definitely say JoJo Siwa. Like, JoJo Siwa is 100% the reason why it's collapsing. Also, this song is a cover. It's not actually hers. But it does generally seem to me as though this person is kind of just jumping on the anti-JoJo Siwa bandwagon because he doesn't seem to know very much about her song or anything like that. At least it doesn't seem as though he's actually taken the time to actually listen to it properly because, like I I said, one, it's a cover, it's not her song. Two, it's definitely not a conservative folk song. In fact, I would say it doesn't have any political messaging in it at all, which might be hard for people to think of nowadays, considering how politicized everything has become. But yeah, no, the song has like no political messaging in it whatsoever. So for him to call it a conservative folk song that is going to be played at conservative weddings, I just don't understand where any of that is coming from. So based on what this person is saying, it does seem to me at least that he's just following the whole narrative that JoJo Siwa is now becoming a trad wife, even though there's really no evidence of any of that.
JoJo Siwa just running a social experiment on us at this point. Like, I am truly convinced that her adult career has just been her pushing the boundaries and her pushing the bit and seeing how far she can take the bit, whatever bit that is that she's committing to, whether that's being the queen of lesbian pop and inventing lesbian pop, or being a 1950s housewife who sounds like she smokes a pack a day, singing covers of Betty Davis's Eyes. Like, whatever she is doing, she commits to the bit, and I do applaud her for that. She truly is someone who I think just believes that any PR is good PR. Like, she is someone who runs her career on the fact that any PR and anyone looking at you is good PR, and it is good to have those eyes on you, because she knew that this was going to cause a lot of online conversation and a lot of not necessarily controversy, but just like, girl, what the fuck are you doing? And I think a lot of her career has been people just looking at her saying, what the fuck are you doing? But this is something that's especially confusing to me, especially after going from, again, I am inventing lesbian pop and really leaning into this lesbian identity. I'm not saying sexuality can't be fluid. Like, I'm all for that. But how do you go from that end of the spectrum to this end?
It is also a possibility that because JoJo Siwa is young and she has also grown up in the spotlight and grown up in the media, that like every young person, she's going to go through many phases of personal development, and that's going to cause her to change multiple times. And as she's finding herself and as she figures out who she is or who she wants to be, she's going to reinvent herself, and that's going to sometimes be visually represented in the way that she's dressing. But of course, unlike us, she's had to do that in the public eye. So because of that, we're seeing every single change and every single transition that she goes through. And so people are looking at that and thinking, oh my God, like this is her kind of, it's like a plan that she's doing to just constantly keep trying to remarket herself or whatever. Whereas it could just be like she's generally in that place, like she's in that stage in her life in that moment. And then it just changes, because everybody kind of goes through phases. Literally everyone goes through stages, goes through phases as they're growing up. It's kind of part of maturing. So maybe it's not a calculated PR stunt, it's just simply her growing up. And we've seen something similar happen with many child stars in the past. This is nothing that's unique to her at all. We've seen them reinvent themselves multiple times. And I think there's also a bigger identity crisis that happens with child stars because they're doing it in the public eye, they kind of feel pressure to kind of stay how they were when they became famous. And so I think there's also that battle of like trying to grow up and trying to show people that you've grown up. And so sometimes they kind of take it a bit overboard, like we've seen with some other pop stars who started out on Disney or whatever. And so yeah, I just is it possible that it's not all intentional and calculated, and it really is just the girl growing up? And what comes with growing up is going through phases and changing and reinventing yourself multiple times.
And what is this look we're going for here with these giant pearl necklaces, this blue lacy dress? Like, she is trying to look like a 1950s housewife, like a trad wife. And it's weird. It's weird. So it is funny because the first thing I thought of when I saw this on my For You page was it kind of looks like the Eras Tour movie premiere look that Taylor was in, with like when she had the fake bob and the blue dress and all that. Like, obviously this is a much lower class, lower version of that same look, but definitely the same energy. But I'm just very curious what she's going for here.
Hear me out. Is it possible that she's mimicking Betty Davis's aesthetic because after all, the song is named after her? Are we now living in a time where women aren't even allowed to play around with this aesthetic, even though many artists have done it before her, without them now being accused of being trad wives who will put everyone on this right-wing pipeline? Like, what are we even talking about?
And specifically, why is she singing like that? Like, what does she think she's accomplishing singing in that low, gravelly voice? I mean, clearly it's auto-tuned as well, but it doesn't sound good. It objectively sounds really bad. And I feel like JoJo Siwa could do a half-decent cover of this song if she just sang normally. Like I said to my girlfriend, I want her to sing this like she sings Boomerang. Like, just sing it normally, girl. Just Just push it out of your mouth. Just push out the vocals. Why are you...
I honestly think she was trying to mimic the raspy voice of the original. I mean, I listened to the original artist, and JoJo wasn't that far off from the original, to be entirely honest. Sure, the original has slightly more voice control, but they sound very similar to me. I don't see how someone can say they absolutely love the original version of the song and they absolutely hate JoJo Siwa's. Because to me, there really isn't a dramatic difference between their vocals. They sound pretty similar, in my opinion.
A few things that are not controversial to say. Number one, I think JoJo Siwa is one of the most inauthentic people in the world. There's absolutely nothing wrong with questioning your sexual orientation. This like out and proud lesbian to now full-on conservative trad wife vibe is very suspect. Many creators who have already pointed this out, this is the alt-right pipeline we are talking about. Like, this is genuinely fucking horrifying. There are definitely Christian conservatives out there who are like, she's been reformed by Jesus. Nothing against, Christian-based music, but I guarantee you're gonna start seeing her go into a complete new genre of music. She's probably gonna denounce her relationships with women.
Are people really getting all of that from a politically neutral song cover? I honestly do think a lot of people just need to chill out. I think all of this backlash that JoJo Siwa is getting, in my opinion, is coming off of the back of the fact that she spoke negatively about the LGBT community. Although she didn't really speak negatively about them, she just openly spoke about how she felt like she was a bit pressured when it came to her sexuality, because originally she was identifying as pan, and then she felt a lot of pressure within the community to identify as a lesbian, probably because at the time, even though she was identifying as pan, her relationships were mostly female relationships, so she was mainly dating girls, and so people thought, well, if you're dating girls, then you're probably just a lesbian, like just say you're a lesbian, because there are those people, both from straight people, gay, lesbian people, who do have this belief that bisexuality or anything similar to it, like pansexuality or whatever, is basically people buying time before they're able to fully feel comfortable to come out of the closet. Like, you get this kind of stuff all the time. Like, there are a lot of people who have very negative views about bisexuality, from whether they're straight, gay, or lesbian. It doesn't really matter, because I've seen gay people say really negative things about bisexual people. I've seen lesbians say really negative things about bisexual people. I've seen straight people say really negative things about bisexual people. But there is this belief that some people have that if you identify as one of these more like sexualities where you're either bisexual or you're pansexual, where you're open to dating both, people kind of view it as like you're just buying time before you come out as your actual sexuality. And so when she says that she felt pressured to identify as a lesbian, I can believe it. To be honest, I can definitely see a scenario in which, because she happened to be dating mostly women at the time, she hadn't had a boyfriend yet, as far as I'm aware, because she was dating a lot of women at the time, people just kind of pressured her to just identify as lesbian. But obviously now we've seen that she's dating Chris, and so we can see that she obviously isn't a lesbian. She is open to dating both, which is originally what she was identifying as. And so now she's kind of going under this term of queer, because let's be honest, queer is quite ambiguous. Not everyone really knows what that means. So I feel like it's just like a safer option for her to be, just so that she can just be left alone to do what she wants without any pressure of having to behave a certain way. Because if you identify as a lesbian, obviously there's a pressure for you to only date women, right? If you identify as bisexual, there is also still that pressure for you to equally kind of date both people, which is why I think a lot of people get pressured to identify as one or the other if they're bisexual. Whereas if you just identify as queer, I don't think that has a lot of pressure, which is why you find a lot of straight people who've only ever had straight relationships their entire life, have zero interest in dating the same sex, will interestingly identify as queer, because queer is just like a safe space where there's no real expectations, and so therefore a lot less judgment and a lot less people trying to pressure you into doing anything to prove your sexuality. So that's my personal theory as to why she probably went from identifying as pan to identifying as lesbian and then now just queer. But I don't know. I'm just saying that's what I've personally seen. I'm not saying that's necessarily the situation for her. All I'm saying is I could believe that she was pressured, because I've seen the kind of views that people have about bisexuals, and people assume that lesbians and gays are more accepting of bisexuals, but that's not necessarily true. At least from what I've seen, it's not necessarily true. But yeah, so as I was saying, I think a lot of this stuff is she's having a lot of negative backlash because a lot of people are upset about what she said about the LGBT community and how she felt pressured to identify as a lesbian. after originally identifying as pan. And so I do think that a lot of people are mad at her for those comments. And I also think a lot of people are mad at the fact that she identified as a lesbian, was allegedly in a relationship when she went into Big Brother, and then allegedly cheated on her girlfriend with Chris. So there's also that situation going on there where I feel like people have grudges against her for that. And so people aren't happy with the fact that she kind of labeled herself as this like lesbian icon and talked about how she was going to make gay pop or whatever. And now all of a sudden she's in a relationship with a man. And it definitely doesn't help that she's now trying to embody Betty Davis's aesthetic, because people are now interpreting that as though she's going full-fledged in the complete opposite direction and is now trying to remarket herself as this conservative trad wife person just because she's now in a relationship with a man. So I think that's what's basically happening here, really. I think it doesn't matter what she would have done. I think she would have still gotten a lot of heat and a lot of backlash from people because they're not really happy with the actions that she's done prior to this. So if you ask me, I really do think this isn't that deep. I don't think it's any deeper than her simply playing around with a vintage aesthetic because of the fact that the song is called Betty Davis's Eyes, and so she's trying to channel her inner Betty Davis aesthetic for the music video. But because we are now living in a time where if you do anything like remotely similar to the whole trad wife thing in terms of how playing around with aesthetics or simply being in a kitchen, you know, all it takes is for you to do something like that and all of a sudden you're a trad wife, you're a conservative, blah blah blah. And this is what I'm talking about now when I say that the bar of entry is so low now for you to be called a conservative or to be called right wing or whatever, or called a trad wife, which is why I never really take it seriously. I said this before in my last video that there's this whole idea that men are becoming more right wing and more conservative, and I'm very skeptical of that. I would need to know exactly why people are saying that, because of the fact that you see stuff like this all the time where people get accused of being these things for the most trivial things. So yeah, I just think this whole thing is just getting really silly now, to be honest. But anyway, this is really all I have to say on this. Do let me know what you think. Do you agree that JoJo Siwa is entering her trad wife era, or do you think the internet is doing what it does best and just making a whole lot of something out of nothing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like this video, you may as well give it a like and also subscribe if you'd like to see more of me. Thank you so much for giving me your time today, and I shall see you in my next video.